starts off like a small town marriage. Lovely wife.
Greetings and welcome to Old Drunken Discography, where all friends, fans come together, base, argue, occasionally agree, and discuss a musical artist. This week's musical artist is Outkast. It was brought to you by Tim. I'm Jason. With me is Joe, special guest.
Ice cold?
And as always, the wild, crazy Bill.
Man, I'm just happy to be here.
Always happy to be here. All right, today we're talking Idlewild. This is the last Outkast record. We are a playlist link channel. Check out the link down below if you missed previous videos. Because surely you didn't Google YouTube Outkast Idlewild review in 2025. But maybe you did. If you did, welcome to the show. All right, Tim, what's up with Idlewild?
Well, before you start, can I ask a question? Did anyone see the movie? Any of the forums?
Not recently.
Not recently, but I have seen it.
I've never seen it, so I was just curious. I was just curious on who's seen it, who hasn't, and your opinions after that.
I'm definitely gonna watch it again because, obviously there was, the last album was kind of a split. They each did their own thing. They both found the biggest success that they had to date. So this is really a chance to kind of come and bring everything that worked separately and try to bring them back to a point of, say, AT-Aliens or Aquemini where they are working together. I don't know, especially with the movie, like obviously some of these songs are written for the plot. Some of them are written from various characters' perspectives. You can also clearly tell, they're relying a lot on, the first song there, it's like they come right out with the Cab Calloway. It's very, the film is very early 20th century based, as is the music here. There's a lot of blues here. When you take in the whole package, I want to say it's Saint Anger level of you could probably study the shit out of it and find out why it broke up the band. There's a lot of good stuff here. I was a first day buyer of this and quickly kind of wrote it off. It was a weird mix match. There's a lot of you could tell that they're kind of forcing a lot of stuff, and it just doesn't have the feel of an Outkast album. Now, however, saying that, I listened to it again for the first time in, a while, preparing for this, and it's a lot better than I remembered. So I've got a couple top songs from here. I don't want to give it away. But this one's kind of a mix match, and I need to watch the movie again. I'm not sure if it hurts or helps to have seen it. But yeah, this one does feel very separate in that you can tell who's doing which songs or whatever, because they laid the blueprint out on the last album, and there's not a lot of cross-pollination.
And at least, I'll say, I think Speaker Box as a whole and The Love Below as a whole, they're two different ideals that are at least, what's the word?
They're almost fully formed individually.
Yeah, they're two ideals that are complete forms, and they whereas this feels like a mishmash that's not really working cohesively.
And personally, seeing the movie, it helped me understand some things, but it confused some other things. But where I was headed though with that is, this is a grower. This is a damn fine album. There's a lot of really good stuff here. Snoop Dogg shows up at one point. All the stuff with Janelle Monáe is amazing. There's a lot of really good stuff here. Snoop Dogg shows up at one point. All the stuff with Janelle Monáe is amazing. There's a lot of really good stuff here. All the stuff with Janelle Monáe is amazing. There's a lot of really good stuff here. Snoop Dogg shows up at one point. All the stuff with Janelle Monáe is amazing. And yeah, it like on its own, like it's really good, but in the context of this discography and everything that's happened before this, you can hear the discord, I guess is the real word there,
Yeah, you can
of
hear the
whatever's
end
going on.
times.
Yeah, yeah. And so yeah, it was always kind of a difficult one for me to go back to. But having done it in the last week, I plan on going back for more. I do want to point out that it closes on a bad note, and that song in and of itself, super funkadelic, top song contender, um, but fitting that it ends on a bad note.
I agree with everything you said up until the last two sentences. Um, I'm kind of the same sentiment. There's a lot of really good shit here. Idlewild Blue, it's a fun little blues ditty. Um, Chromantrophobia, I like how the beat is in every second like a clock ticking. Um, which that's the fear of clocks. It's kind of cool that like the beat is like 1, 2, 3. Uh, Train, to me, this should have been the closing album. If we were gonna get if in hindsight to say the last Outkast song on the last Outkast album is, I think it should be the Train. Like that, I think that sums up where they were at this point. Life, it's fine. Hollywood Divorce, I love this song. It straight up calls out Hollywood. It calls out white people in general, like just stealing the culture and monetizing it. Like that's a really good fucking song. Call the
An
Law.
interesting parallel to the movie where they are kind of, like Prohibition era jazz and blues singers.
Yes, yeah. I mean, they straight up like just call out the Stankonia fans, basically. Like, you know,
It definitely shifted the culture. Yeah.
yeah. Shout out Trey. If you want some good fucking swing, check out Call the Law. You know, he
Yeah,
likes those
that's a
swing
good
songs
one.
from the Deftones.
That's a good one.
Check out Calls the Law. Makes no sense at all. Super fun. I like the line ABC 1 2 3 Do Re Mi out of key. Like there's a lot of good like one liners in that song. In Your Dreams, I fucking love it. This is a late album gem. It sounds like old Outkast. Plus you got fucking Killer Mike. Um, Greatest Show on Earth is another highlight. Macy Gray fucking kills it. When I look, it's fun. But Bad Note, I don't. It's not a good closer for me. Like it's 8 minutes long. It's kind of meh. And I think the Train would have worked really well as a closer. But
Well, we'll get to Maggot Brain, but yeah, that song is straight out of the Funkadelic playbook.
yeah, I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat with Tim. Is there's there's a lot of really good shit on this record. It just feels it's a step back from like the cohesiveness and storytelling of The Love Below or even Stankonia or even AT Aliens. Like
Right.
that level of storytelling and concept building is not, it's lost here, which is ironic because this is a based on a movie. So what the fuck? Like I don't know. Idlewild's a weird one. It's a fucking weird one.
My concern about this album is me not seeing the movie in the context it may provide for me. Because to me, this album feels like a split album also. It feels like part of this album is a soundtrack and part of this album is Outcast.
Which
And
I think that's what
narrates
happened.
should the two meet,
Hmm.
is what it feels like to me. It feels like, all right, we have some Outcast songs on
Which
here.
is a subplot of the movie,
And
is
see
their
that
relationship.
that may be the like maybe contextually I don't get what
Yeah.
we're doing
Uh,
here.
I'll let you guess which one's PJ, and I'll let you guess which one's Rooster.
I would say Rooster's probably Big Boy. Huh?
Yeah.
Kind of called himself out on the last album, right?
Yeah.
And
I
Percival Jr. kind of called himself out on the last album too.
I love the call outs to their previous to the albums and things like Peaches being a song on here. Now, with Peaches being a song here, it's very disappointing that we don't hear Peaches.
Yeah,
Um,
I was gonna
it's
ask.
very sad.
Peaches interlude or intro is much better than Peaches track 3 on
Yeah.
Idlewild. Just saying.
The intro here, I love the "You're gonna buy me some popcorn" at the end of it. I think this intro is fine. "You're gonna buy me some popcorn" for a soundtrack, basically for a movie, is I was like, I see. That's a fun thing you're doing. Most of the songs on here, I've only got one bad song on this one. Most of them are just okay as we go through it. I think Mighty O's okay. I think Peaches is okay. Idlewild Blues is good. That's a good song. I like it. I like the beat and the music to it. Even babies get the blues. It's great. I didn't write much about the interlude for Infatuation. Into You's okay. I think Morris Brown is the first real song that sounds like an Outkast song to me on here. I was like, oh, we've got an Outkast song going here. I love the marching band start. So that to me, I was like, ooh, here we are. Here's Outcast. Awesome. And then Chronomentrophobia. I think it's a good song also. I like this one a lot. Train, okay. Life is like a musical, okay. I love the no bootleg DVDs.
That's a good. That's
Interlude. Girls Going Idlewild is hilarious. Idlewild director's cut. That's just funny. I heard Dre and Big Boys coming this way. Oh, I gotta get out of here. Um, Call the Law. I like the beat and the music a lot. I didn't. The song was okay to me. Yeah. Bamboo and Cross interlude. I think it's still very funny that it's the kids going to it. And then Bugface, whereas I didn't really enjoy the song. I do. I didn't like the chorus. I did like the "Can I Dance" echoing through it from the interlude previous. Make No Sense, In Your Dreams, PJ and Rooster, Mootron Angel, all just okay songs. They're fine. There's nothing good or bad about. I mean, it's not bad. It's just not something that I'm like, ooh, this makes a good Outkast album for me. Greatest Show on Earth with Macy Gray. She's awesome. She kills it. You're Beautiful with Alicia Keys kills it. I like Snoop Dogg in Hollywood Divorce. I like hearing that. That's fun. Dying to Live. Okay. I like the piano and organ intro kind of going in there. In Your Eyes, I like the big swing sound. Bad Note. I started off a bad note and I was like, I don't hate the long musical intro, and then like the note that is kind of off. Um, it's a really long song and a really the weird voice at the end that they're doing the repeating lines in. I just don't like. Um, so to me, that is the only song I think I put down bad throughout their entire discography. Um, like I said, like the callbacks and references through their songs. This one is just kind of discombobulated for me. I don't understand a lot of what we're doing here. Whereas the other one, they had like two split albums, and I was like, I get what you're doing on both of these. When you put it together like this, and like I said, could be just because it's a soundtrack, and we were going into a movie and then trying to make the music behind it, and there was just too much going on for us. I don't know.
all right, Bill. What about you?
So,
I gotta let my dog in, so just entertain the viewers and just keep going.
I mean, yeah, I definitely could do that. So this one, you know, for me, this one followed down the same path that they started with Speaker Box for me. And speaking as a person, go check out our album of the decade series for the '90s, who has put a lot of soundtracks in his top 10. And you know, I didn't know that this was a soundtrack, but after you guys talking about this as a soundtrack, it, I don't think this album works as a soundtrack, honestly. It it doesn't have
Well,
the
and it's
same.
not necessarily a soundtrack as more as it's a compendium. The album
Okay.
doesn't work without the movie, and the movie doesn't work without the album.
See, and that further creates a dilemma just because if it's a quality soundtrack should be able to stand alone from the movie if it's a good enough soundtrack.
Sure.
Mhm.
And, if we're going off of that basis,
Like that Tarzan soundtrack coming up '99.
yep. And that one without the movie still works as a great soundtrack.
But like, I don't know. I'm pretty sure this was like a combination of like there's some movie here, but there's also like EPs and other songs that weren't part of
Which
the
would make sense because
Idlewild.
I'll say this as an album, this is the least cohesive, maybe, of their albums to this point. Like, yes, it's still, the same sounds, the same elements, the same, musical tones and whatnot coming through. But it doesn't necessarily sound like it was an album recording at times.
Their first album sounds more cohesive than this.
Exactly, which is it's interesting given, I'm going to cycle way back. Again, those of you watching, playlist link channel, go check out our first album review here. Like that first album sounded very simplistic isn't the word, but it sounded very an amateur wasn't the word either because they were doing some cool stuff on it, but it sounded very
Like a first album.
producingly minimalistic,
Yeah.
like a first album. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
On your sixth and at this stage final album, like you should, after 22 years, yeah, 22
Mhm.
years, have been at the point you should have, no, not 22 years,
12
12
years.
years. Sorry. Either way, it's over a decade. And you've
Well, that's
produced,
usually when it happens when creative partners find differences that no longer allow them to work together.
oh, absolutely.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
And honestly, truth be told, as again, this feels like a natural progression from Speaker Box and Love. Like, what was Speaker Box? What was the last album? It was really two different albums fused into one, realistically. And this one is, again, it's kind of the same idea going on here.
Look at the
Like,
album cover. I know this isn't Is It Art, but just look at that album cover.
that's what it is. I mean, I just quickly hitting on the songs. Um, First album Peaches was better than this album Peaches. Intro was this is the one where I would say is probably worse than the first album if I were to pick
Oh,
one worse than the first album. Um
Peaches hate, man.
Mm-hmm.
oh yeah.
He
I
just
mean,
he ain't had them grits. He don't know.
this album had similar quantity of interludes to the first album. But the interludes they weren't as I'll say magical as that first album's.
I'll disagree there. I think no bootleg DVDs is a top fucking interlude.
And You're Beautiful with Alicia Keys.
And yeah,
I like the Bamboo and Cross thing. I don't know if it's
Infatuation's pretty good too. But I get what
I
you're saying. I think they don't fit the album
correct.
as well. They're just good on
Yeah.
their own. I get that.
Like it just didn't this album I didn't struggle to listen to, but it was a more difficult listen compared to the other albums in this discography. It's not a bad album by any means. 2006 for a hip hop album, this is better than damn near any other album I can think about in the 2000s, honestly. But comparing it to the rest of the Outcasts, I mean, it's deep competition.
All right. Well, I think we're ready to rank. I do believe it's my turn to guess again. I think Bill and Joe are going to have it at the bottom.
You got me.
Bill, you good?
I mean, you're right for me. Yeah.
Okay. Tim's a tricky one.
Always.
I think today, as of recording, it's going to be Tim's number 6 as well.
That is 100% correct.
Okay. And it's going to be my number 6 as well. It's just a...
Only one we all agree on placement. I love it.
Yeah. But the color code will tell all, because Idlewild has a lot of good shit on it. And I think, as we've said in the very beginning of this, repeat listens is important for this.
Absolutely. And because of that, I mean, I'm going to start it off at green. Like, it is a great album.
All right.
And then we'll probably continue the green train up till number 3. And then my personal choice would be that those top 2 are Ramones Gold. But I certainly understand if somebody disagrees with that.
Tim dropping that Ramones Gold.
And you know that's serious when he drops it.
Yeah, he don't just throw that shit around like me and Bill. We're just like fucking Alkaline Trio, Good Mornings, Ramones Gold, motherfucker.
Well, to be fair, that was only one album. That was a... I'm sorry, Good Morning is absolutely a Ramones Gold album. Like, you need to hear that before you die.
Well, I said I got 2 colors as well, but I'm gonna say Idlewild's a must hear. The Love Below is a goddamn Ramones Gold, but because of Speaker Box, it's still a must hear. Must hear. Must hear. I think my top 2 are Ramones Gold. Stankonia is a fucking masterpiece, and I think their first record is a masterpiece as well.
And I would not disagree with that.
I think their first album, like, it kicked off an entire, like, subgenre. I don't even know if it's a subgenre, but I guess a different location of hip-hop that, I mean, it went off and did, strong. Yeah, it ran off on its own after this, but this is the basis of where it fucking started. And it's one of the best records, like, I've ever heard. I'm going to get that on vinyl. Well, Bill, where are you starting?
So, I'm going to do this from someone who, if you wanted to pick up and listen to Outkast.
Okay.
I would start with Yellow for Idlewild, but that's it. Just because, Idlewild, is it a bad place to start? No. But I would advise against starting there for listening to Outkast. I would go green, however, for 3 through 5. And I'll be honest. I think both of you are wrong. I think Aquemini is definitely a must here. Ramon's Gold. Like, that is a spectacular album. And naturally, Stankonia, I mean, as I said before, that is, in my opinion, penultimate 2000s hip hop. I do not think 2000s hip hop gets better than that.
I have two colors also. Um, because y'all give Ramon's Gold out like candy, boy. I don't know if I can. I don't know y'all's definition of Ramon's Gold versus mine.
Ramon's Gold is if you don't own this album, you are wrong.
Oh, okay.
Like you
Like-
need to not only listen to, you need to own and fucking worship this album.
It
Yeah, it
changed.
needs to be part of your DNA.
Yeah, it changed your life in some form or capacity.
It touched you. You have to show
It touched
the court
you.
where the teddy bear touched you.
In all the right places.
Well, I may have three colors then because my definition of Ramon's Gold was like a perfect album, but not a it touched you
well,
album.
Ramon's Gold is a perfect album.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it
then,
touches you.
Yeah.
then we're back to two colors then.
I think,
So
to me, Ramon's Gold can mean whatever you want, Joe.
yeah, we're gonna go with a perfect album then. So I am going to say Idlewild. I would have told you before we started that it was going to be a red, but since I have not seen the movie, I'm going to put it at a yellow. Just
I mean, I
because
should-
I think there's more context that I am missing.
That's
Um,
interesting.
I
Because-
don't think it's a bad album necessarily, but when you listen to everything else Outkast and then you listen to Idlewild, you're like, well, there's a definite this isn't as good. It just isn't.
Interesting.
Everything else is gonna be a must hear. If The Love Below was by itself, it'd be Ramon's Gold.
See,
Because
you
that
fucked
disc too
yourself
is that.
putting it up there that high. That's how you fucked yourself. Because I agree. I it should be Ramon's Gold. It's like a split between green and gold.
Yeah, because I mean, all the rest of them are must hears. I don't think any of these albums are perfect though.
It's
I think there are low
interesting. The
points on
only
all of
two
them.
yellows on the board are the people who didn't watch the movie.
Correct.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and that's the only reason it's yellow.
That's
I had watched the movie
crazy.
and still felt this way.
I guess Tim
I
was
agree.
right. It is like you got to have but one or the other.
Which I would argue if it means that you have to have like if you
It's a
need the
companion
movie
piece.
for the album.
I get that argument, but at the
The-
same time, like the music, the album on its own, there's a
Yeah,
lot
and that
of
was
good
part of the
shit on
package
there.
too. It's not
Yeah.
just an album; it's an album and a movie.
It's like Poe's second record. Like if you don't have House of Leaves, you haven't read House of Leaves, you're gonna miss a lot of it. But on its own, it's still good. If that makes sense.
It could just be better.
Yeah, it could be better. It could be green. It could be a must hear.
Pretty flawless discography here, honestly.
Yeah, Tim
Strong.
brought some bangers here. I'm glad we got this one. I'm glad we got this one done.
Say it ain't no Nickelback.
Ain't no Nickelback.
No, no,
Ain't no Deftones.
ain't
Sorry,
no thing
Trey.
but a chicken wang.
It ain't no thing but a chicken wing.
What
Stick
is it, a
around.
Led Zeppelin?
Well, we'll get there. I'm putting
Remember,
Nickelback.
Jason hates physical.
Yeah, I'm putting
graffiti.
Nickelback Brown on fucking Physical Graffiti because evidently I hate it.
Dude, that's
Which is the one?
That's a
is that
fucking
the one I
crime
didn't
against
care for?
humanity.
Yeah, you and I both like put it pretty low, but I think you had it high. I had it at the lowest, and for
You
some
could
reason
put an
I
album
fucking
low.
hate. We didn't have the color code. If we would have had the color code back then, it would have made sense.
I mean, we didn't have the color code when we did the Offspring the first time with you, me, and Joe.
There's been a lot of red.
Offspring don't have fuck all to do with this conversation.
A lot of red.
You know, it had to do with the color code.
I
so
wouldn't
thought it
have
did.
red on
Let
the
me be.
Offspring.
Let me-
I
you
wouldn't
know-
I
have.
would.
We're gonna
I'm
redo
trying
the
to-
we're gonna redo the Offspring. All right.
Damn right we will.
Anyway, stick around for that. We're gonna redo
don't
the
know.
Offspring. I'm sure you Outkast fans that found us would
Love
love to hear
Offspring.
our
Shit about the
love the
Offspring.
Offspring. So
Both start with O's.
that's the beauty of this show. We cover bands we fucking like and artists we fucking like. So next week is Devo. That's a Patreon pick. That's not an artist
If
we
it
picked.
wasn't, though, it was going to be on my list. I'm super excited for that.
Devo's going to be a good one. It's going to be a weird one. It's going to be a fun one. So stick around for that. As always, be safe and make a good decisions.
And then you go a little woo, and then a little whoop, 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 and then it's all, and then you're ready to go again.